Hi everyone and welcome to Book Boop. My name is Rachel and today I'm going to be talking about books that I would love to reread. So I honestly don't reread that many books. This is the first time in a long time this year in 2019 that I've actually reread a few books and I really enjoyed it. A lot of times I don't reread too often because I feel like I just don't have time. There are so many books that I want to read. There's so many incredible stories out there that I just want to just inhale. And I feel like I just don't have time to reread things that I know I love, but I just want to see if I can find even more that I love. But today I'm going to be talking about a list of books or series that I really would love to reread someday because I just loved them and I just think it would be fun to experience them again. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the very first series that I would love to reread would be No Surprise. It's a series that a lot of people on BookTube have actually been rereading recently and have been loving. Like, people are just loving it so much, and that is none other than the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. This here is the illustrated edition of the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone, whichever way you like it. But I would love to reread Harry Potter. I have not reread Harry Potter in a very long time. I know some of the books I actually have only read once. I know that the 7th book was one I've only read one time, and I would love to reread this series. Whenever you realize that you know more details about the Harry Potter movies than you know the books, that's when you know it's time to reread it. And this is a perfect time of year to do it. I mean, any time of year is a good time to do Harry Potter, but during the fall and the winter is a fantastic time to reread Harry Potter, and I'm hoping to reread it very soon, especially rereading with at least the illustrated editions that are out now. The Goblet of Fire is supposed to come out really soon, and I'm collecting those, but I have 3 sets of Harry Potter, and which is great because that means myself and my husband and my daughter can all read Harry Potter at the same time if we want to, which would be really cool. But I'm really hoping to reread Harry Potter soon because, oh my goodness, I'm ready to dive back into the world of Hogwarts and wizards and witches and Hogsmeade and just all the glorious things. So I'm hoping to reread this really soon, but this is kind of like the top thing I would love to reread. The next thing I'm hoping to reread at some point is the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. This is probably my favorite fairy tale retelling out there. It's just the most unique retelling to me for Cinderella, Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Rapunzel, all mashed up into a sci-fi epic. I loved this. This was so original to me and so unique and so fun and exciting, and I loved it. One of the things I love to do is that I would actually like to listen to these on audiobook. I don't listen to very many audiobooks, and I think it'd be cool to kind of experience these stories again, but through audiobooks. I think that'd be really fun. I've actually heard these are good. So I'd love to try that sometime and just listen to those or reread them. But I really loved this series and I would love to experience again. Cinder is actually one of my favorites out of the entire series. I just thought it was such a cool, unique way of Cinderella and just having this sci-fi spin on it. So I would love to reread the series. I think it would be so much fun. After that, the next one I actually own, but someone's borrowing it. But I would love to reread the Illumination Files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. So I would especially love to reread this series again as an audiobook because I've heard the audiobooks are incredible. I hear there's a full cast, there's sound effects. It just sounds like a really neat and interesting way to listen to it. And the Illumination Files is written in a very different way. It's written as a form of dossiers and instant messages and honestly kind of artwork. There's just lots of really cool different ways the story is told, and it's just a really unique, immersive way. I wish I could show you with the book, but again, I don't have it on me right now. But I would love to actually hear how they do that as an audiobook because so much of that series is visual. So I would love to hear what they do in regards to the audiobook. So I'm hoping to maybe listen to those at some point. I did read the Illumination Files this year. I actually read it in January of 2019. So I have read it recently, but I would love to experience it as an audiobook. After that, I would also really love to reread, and this is another book I read this year and I absolutely adored, and I don't own it. I borrowed it from the library, and that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I absolutely adored The Night Circus. It is the most immersive, atmospheric book I have ever read, probably other than like Harry Potter, which feels very atmospheric, but The Night Circus just sucks you in. It reminds me so much of the feeling of fall to me because it makes me think of going to like a fall festival, especially one maybe that would be out every year, like depending on what town you live in. Maybe they have a certain festival that's every single year, maybe it's in the fall, and there's just certain sights and sounds and smells that remind you of it, and that's what The Night Circus does for me. It kind of sucks me in, and there's just so much not just reading it, but if you feel like you're there, you feel like you can smell the smells of the fair and these delicious, like the roasting nuts and looking at the different tents and the different performers. It's just so much fun to read. So I would love to reread the Night Circus. I'm sorry if you can hear my daughter in the background. She's supposed to be taking a nap and she's very angry because she doesn't want to take her nap right now. So I'm sorry if you hear a screaming child in the background. She's fine. She just doesn't want to take a nap right now. So if you hear that, I am sorry. The next book I would love to reread is One for Sorrow by Mary Downing Hahn. I absolutely love Mary Downing Hahn. She writes incredible ghost stories. The ghost stories are written for, I would say, children or middle grade. This is one of the longer ones that she's written, and it's a more recent book that she's written as well. This is a great one for the winter because, as you can tell from the cover, it takes place in the wintertime, and it's just such a creepy, creepy read. I apologize, most of these books I haven't given a lot of description to, but this one here takes place during the influenza epidemic, I believe in the either late 1800s, early 1900s. I don't know my history about that very well, but it follows this little girl who a frenemy of hers dies by influenza, and her frenemy's ghost comes and basically haunts her and torments her, and it's really creepy and fun, and I just love it. So it's a great fall read and a winter read as well, but I would love to reread this one because I think this one was just masterfully done, and it was very atmospheric, it was very creepy, and I really loved it. So I would love to read it again, and I love rereading Mary Downing Hahn's books. Just love it. All right, so the next one I would love to reread is actually a series. At least I'd like to read the first few in this series. I own these, but my mother is borrowing all of them right now, and that is the Land of Stories series by Chris Colfer. Land of Stories is just this giant mashup of all of your favorite fairy tales. Just all your favorite fairy tale characters just mashed up in one big thing, and it is a blast to read. The very first two books are my favorite, which I believe the first one's The Wishing Spell, second one is The Enchantress Returns, I believe. The first two are my favorite, so if anything, I would love to reread those first two books because they're so magical and immersive, and it just brings you back to your childhood, the joy of kind of the first time that you read fairy tales, or you know, the first time you watched like fairy tale Disney movies or things like that. It just kind of has that feeling, and I really would love to experience that again. That's another one I would actually really, really love to do as an audiobook, because I've heard the audiobooks for Land of Stories are fantastic, and that would be a really fun way to experience it. My dog is here now too, and he's just staring at me just inches away. Hey, Bubba. All right, so another one I would love to read. I would love to reread the whole series, but the first one's my favorite. Sorry, my little doggo. And that is The Haunting of the Sunshine Girl by Paige Mackenzie. This book is so darn creepy. I love it. I love it so much. It reminds me of watching Are You Afraid of the Dark, or makes me think of Goosebumps. I just love this series, especially this first one. So this one's about this girl who moves into this home with her mom, and there's a ghost of a little girl in this house. And basically it's just a lot about the mystery about this little girl and what happened to her. And she's trying to figure out, the main girl's trying to figure out how to send the spirit on. And it's really creepy. I'm not explaining it well, but it's a very, very creepy book. And I love it. It's very atmospheric. It's very fall as well. I think most of this book takes place during the fall. So it's just, you can feel the crunchy leaves and the crisp air, and it's just, I love it. So it's a great fall read as well. I love this series. If anything, I want to reread the first one because it's my favorite out of the series, but the entire series is fantastic. So I want to reread this one as well. The last one I have to mention is one that I've been meaning to reread for so long. I read it several years ago and I adored it, and I really want to reread it. And I even have the audiobook and still haven't even listened to that. I need to just listen to the audiobook because I started it and it sounds amazing, and the person doing the audiobook is so good. But that is The Night Gardener by Jonathan Auzier. I think that's how you pronounce it. I always feel like I always pronounce that guy's name wrong. But I adore this book. This is like the epitome of fall right here. It's so awesome and atmospheric. Again, this is another atmospheric read. I found a lot of the books that I want to reread usually are very atmospheric. They just suck me in, and I want to experience that again. So this is why I want to reread these so bad. But The Night Gardener takes place, I'm trying to think, I think it takes place during the 1800s, and it follows these siblings who are from Ireland, and their parents have died, and they are being sent to this manor in England, I think, where they're supposed to be servants there. They're going to be serving this old manor, and there's some other kids there as well. But there's kind of like some creepy things going on where there's this really dark, large tree, and apparently it's kind of a wishing tree. You can leave your wishes there, and your wishes can come true, but they come at a cost. and there's this kind of spirit attached to this tree called the Night Gardener, and he basically comes and takes the payment for your wishes, basically. It's a very creepy book. It's got a nice message to it as well, which is something I love about Jonathan Auzier's works, is that all of his works are very reminiscent of old fairy tales, but they have a moral to them as well, which reminds me again of old fairy tales, which is really cool. So I love that these books have these nice little morals to them. It's a gorgeous cover. It's got this old tree and the blowing leaves in the wind, and it's just, it's so good. And I really need to reread this one so bad. So those are all the books that I would love to reread. Those are kind of the top ones I think of anyways. There's lots of other series and books I would love to reread someday. I wish I had all the time in the world to just read and read and read and read, so I could constantly be inhaling books and rereading books, but I just don't have the time. But those are the ones I would really, really love to read. What are some books or series that you personally would love to reread? Or maybe are there any that you've reread recently that maybe you love just as much or you found a new love for? Just let me know about that. Also, if there are any of these that I mentioned today, especially ones maybe you've listened to on audiobook, let me know what you thought about the audiobook, because that's something I'm wanting to get into more. I just very rarely listen to audiobooks and I want to get into it more. On this side of the screen over here is my logo. If you click on that, you can subscribe to my channel and follow me on my book journey. On this side of the screen over here is another video if you want to watch another one right now. But thank you so much for watching. You rock, and don't forget to keep reading. Bye!